Title: Broken Promises and Bitter Justice. I still remember the exact moment my heart shattered into irreparable shards. It was a brisk Sunday morning, the sun peeking lazily through the curtains of our bedroom, the room we had shared for the better part of 3 years. The smell of coffee lingered in the air. My ritual: brewing a fresh pot while he remained lazily tucked in bed. His laughter, a sound I once found comforting, was the first crack in the facade of my perfect life. It wasn't directed at me. The sound of that laugh, muffled and intimate, seeped through the closed bathroom door like poison gas. It pulled me from the kitchen, trailing up the stairs with a curiosity that quickly transformed into a suffocating dread. My feet felt like stones when I finally reached the landing, each step heavier than the last. I hesitate to revisit the memory even now, though I know it was the beginning of the end. I pushed the bathroom door open, expecting perhaps to find him chatting on the phone. He was always that kind of person, laughing at silly jokes and sending memes even at odd hours. But what I saw was worse. The phone's screen illuminated his face. A grin spread across his lips as he video called her. Audrey. Her name flashed at the top of the screen. It wasn't a name I'd seen on his contacts list before. Morning. Gorgeous, he cooed to her, his voice lower than the one he used with me. His eyes sparkled in a way I hadn't seen in months. I froze there, slack-jawed and motionless. He didn't notice me. Not at first. Gorgeous? Really? I finally spat, my voice trembling but sharp enough to cut through his mirth. His head snapped up. The panic on his face was unmistakable. Ellie. Wait, I can explain. Quote, explain? My voice cracked, rage and heartbreak colliding as tears threatened to spill down my cheeks. My fingers curled into fists at my sides. Explain what, Ben? That you've been lying to me? That you've been sneaking around behind my back? Quote, Audrey's voice drifted softly from the phone, unaware of the wreckage she was causing. Ben? What's happening? Quote, I grabbed the phone before he could stop me, my hand trembling so violently I almost dropped it. I needed her to see my face. I wanted her to know what kind of man she was entertaining. Hi, Audrey. Ben forgot to mention his girlfriend of 3 years. Didn't he? I mean, why bother when you've got him giggling on FaceTime like some lovesick puppy? Quote, Audrey's eyes widened on the screen, her expression teetering between shock and guilt. Wait, he told me he was single. Quote, I couldn't stand to hear the excuse. I hurled his phone at him, letting it bounce on the tiles before skittering across the floor. He scrambled to pick it up, sputtering nonsense about how it wasn't what it looked like. But we both knew that was a lie. The following weeks played out like someone had taken a sledgehammer to the foundation of my world. I moved out, packed up my things into cardboard boxes while Ben pathetically tried to apologize. He went through every phase. The denial, the bargaining, the crocodile tears. None of it mattered anymore. But my humiliation wasn't complete. Audrey wasn't just anyone. She turned out to be his coworker. Worse, his direct subordinate. That revelation came one desperate night when I couldn't sleep, my mind spiraling into a dark pit of self-doubt and unresolved fury. I began scouring his social media, a habit I never indulged in before. A tagged photo of them at work together sealed the deal. She worked in his department, meaning any half-hearted apology he'd given me was stained with professional betrayal. How long had this been going on? Did his boss know? Did she know about me the entire time? The questions boiled in my mind, simmering into the soup of vengeful determination that eventually consumed me. I had always been a planner. That was one of the traits Ben claimed to love about me. I could map out projects, vacations, and financial goals with meticulous precision. This time, I mapped out something else entirely. The destruction of his career and reputation. Step 1. Evidence. I pored over every text message, every scrap of interaction we'd ever had. Screenshots of conversations where he'd lied about staying late at work to prep for the quarters end. Photos of him attending weekend, team building events. I hacked into his cloud storage. Yes, something I never thought I'd do. But at that point, morality felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. I struck gold. Hidden deep within his photos folder were candid shots of him and Audrey on dates. Dinner. A ski trip. A beach excursion where they toasted margaritas beneath the glow of a sunset. My hands trembled as I saved each photo, cataloging the evidence like a meticulous detective. Step 2. Research. Audrey's professional profile was as easy to find as Ben's. She worked under him directly. An intern turned new hire who, according to a quick LinkedIn browse, had fast-tracked her career path thanks to his mentorship. Mentorship. The word was laughable. More alarmingly, I discovered that their company had strict anti-fraternization policies. Relationships between supervisors and subordinates weren't just frowned upon. They could result in termination. I knew exactly how my revenge would unfold. 3 weeks after my discovery, the rage had transformed. It was no longer a fire that burned me from the inside. It was icy, calculated. I began planting seeds. One by one, I joined an online forum for disgruntled employees of the company Ben worked for. It was a small group of ex-workers who aired grievances about the toxic corporate culture, unfair promotions, and general dissatisfaction. Slowly, I befriended them under an anonymous username, Justice Seeker 83. I slipped into their conversations, asking careful questions about company policies, figuring out who to contact when reporting misconduct. And then, I drafted the email. It was an exceptionally rainy Friday afternoon when everything fell into place. I sat at my desk, staring at the glowing screen of my laptop, reading the email over one last time before hitting send. The subject line was simple: violation of company policy, supervisory misconduct. The email itself was precise. I attached every piece of damning evidence I had collected. Screenshots of their intimate text exchanges, dates, photos, and even timestamp emails where Ben had lied about working late to cover for his relationship. I cited the company's policy document regarding supervisory romance and concluded with one biting sentence: if this issue is ignored, it will reflect poorly on your leadership team's ability to enforce ethics standards. I sent the email to 3 key individuals: the company's HR manager, the department head above Ben, and the CEO. By Monday morning, chaos had erupted. I didn't hear about it immediately, of course, but gossip travels fast, especially in corporate environments. A former employee from the forum pinged me with excitement. Something's going down in Ben's department. HR called him and Audrey in. It's bad. I swallowed the lump rising in my throat, my pulse racing with a mix of exhilaration and dread. Had I gone too far? Was this overkill? No. The answer was immediate and undeniable. This was justice. The fallout was uglier than I even anticipated. By the end of the week, Ben had lost his position. He wasn't fired completely, but HR demoted him, stripping him of his authority, his team, and his corner office. Audrey didn't fare much better. As the subordinate in question, she avoided answering for her actions directly but was quietly asked to resign to avoid further scandal. I should have felt triumphant. But the victory wasn't complete. Not yet. Ben called me one night. It had been over a month since I sent the email, and my life had settled into something resembling normalcy. I wasn't sleeping as much as I once did, but I spent evenings rebuilding myself, therapy, yoga, journaling. His name blinking on my phone screen sent my stomach into knots. Against my better judgment, I answered, "What do you want?" I asked flatly, my voice devoid of the warmth it once carried for him. "You ruined me," he blurted. The words caught me off guard. Not because I didn't expect his anger, but because I hoped for something. For anything. Closer to remorse. The company's turning against me. People won't even look me in the eye anymore. You cost me everything, Ellie. I scoffed, bitterness dripping from every syllable of my response. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cost you everything? Ben? Did I damage your life the way you damaged mine? Did I humiliate you the way you humiliated me? Sneaking around with your little intern while lying through your teeth? Quote. He didn't reply immediately. I heard his shallow breathing through the phone. A sign that my words had landed exactly where I intended. I didn't mean to hurt you, he whispered finally. A pathetic, weak excuse. I hung up without another word. Months passed, but I realized something vital during that time. Revenge doesn't heal. Not completely. It feels satisfying in the moment. But those raw, jagged edges of betrayal don't disappear just because you've leveled the playing field. And so, I learned to let go. Not completely. Not yet. But in small doses. I accepted that my heart would take longer to repair than I'd hoped. I forgave myself for loving someone unworthy of it. But Ben? I hope he remembers what happened. I hope he carries the weight of his choices like a scar that never fades. Because some promises, some betrayals, should never be forgotten. Word count, 2,762. Broken promises and bitter justice. Continuation and expansion. Months passed, but I wasn't okay. Not really. The hatred I felt for Ben simmered just below the surface. Even as I sat alone in the quiet of my new apartment. Moving out had been necessary. But the space felt hollow. The absence of our shared life like a missing limb I couldn't stop noticing. The apartment was smaller than the house we had shared. But at least it was mine. The cream-colored walls didn't carry memories. No echoes of laughter or whispered conversations before sleep. I had chosen simple furniture. Clean lines and neutral tones. A deliberate rejection of the chaotic whirlwind that had been my life. I spent hours rearranging the bookshelves. Trying to fill the silence with something meaningful. But even then, Ben lingered in my thoughts like a shadow cast over everything. Some nights, I sat staring at my phone. Scrolling through photos I hadn't deleted yet. Pictures of vacations, dinners, anniversaries. I hated myself for indulging. But I couldn't stop. I wasn't just mourning what he had done, but the person I had been before I learned the horrible truth. I remembered the girl who trusted him without question. Who didn't second-guess his excuses or the way he sometimes came home smelling like hotel shampoo. Bitterness wrapped itself around me. I knew that his world had crumbled. That my revenge had struck him deeply. But part of me wanted more. Why? Why wasn't it enough to expose him? To humiliate him? To take away everything he had jeopardized for his selfish indulgence? Why was I still so angry? It wasn't until I ran into Audrey outside a coffee shop that I realized why. It was late October. The air crisp and tinged with the promise of winter. I had stepped into the local cafe near my apartment to grab a pumpkin chai latte. An indulgence I hadn't allowed myself to enjoy in weeks. As I walked out the door, my drink warm in my hands, I saw her, Audrey, standing just a few feet away, fumbling with her wallet, looking every bit as polished as she had in the photos I'd found months ago. She was wearing a fitted trench coat, her dark hair cascading in perfect waves over her shoulders. She was everything I wasn't at the time. Put together, confident, seemingly unbothered by the destruction we had both wrought. I didn't plan to confront her. But anger bubbled up faster than I could control. The sight of her was like a slap in the face. A visceral reminder of what Ben had traded me for. She had walked away from the fallout entirely unscathed. Hadn't she? She hadn't suffered the humiliation that Ben endured. She hadn't lost anything. Her career, her reputation, or the trust of a loved one. Before I knew it, I was walking toward her. My latte forgotten in my grip. My heart pounded, my breath shallow as I approached. "Audrey," I said, forcing my voice to remain steady. She turned, her eyes widening in recognition. To her credit, she didn't try to deny knowing me. There was a flash of guilt in her expression. But whether it was guilt for what she'd done or fear of confrontation, I couldn't tell. "Oh, Ellie, right?" she stammered, hesitating as her hand gripped the strap of her designer tote bag. I gave a bitter laugh. "Wow, you remembered. I wasn't sure. You seemed pretty comfortable forgetting I existed when you were sleeping with Ben behind my back." Audrey winced, her face reddening. "Look, I didn't know about you at first. He told me he was single. By the time I found out, quote, you didn't care," I finished for her, my voice sharp. "Don't give me excuses. You knew he was lying to me. But you kept going anyway. You didn't bother to stop. You didn't care who got hurt as long as it wasn't you." Audrey looked down, her grip on her tote tightening. "I made mistakes. I regret them. But I didn't plan for any of this to happen." The indifference in her tone burned worse than anything else she could have said. She regretted it, but not enough to stop herself. Did she even know how thoroughly she'd helped destroy me? Did she understand how much pain and humiliation she had caused? I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "You regret it? That's cute. You regret it so much that you benefited from it, didn't you? He got you fast-tracked through your internship, didn't he? You didn't mind leveraging his affection to get ahead in your job. And when it all came crashing down, you walked away without a scratch. You're fine, right? Meanwhile, I've been picking up the pieces of my life every single day." Audrey flinched, her lips pressed tightly together. She didn't say anything, but her silence spoke volumes. "Just know," I said, stepping back, "that if I ever find out you're pulling something like this again, I won't hesitate to ruin you just like I did him. You got lucky this time. Don't let it happen again." With that, I turned and walked away, not bothering to look back. It should have been easy to let go after that confrontation. I had said my piece, laid my anger bare, but I still felt restless, unsettled. Something was missing. I began working on myself. Not out of forgiveness, but out of necessity. I signed up for an art class, something I had always wanted to try. Painting proved to be surprisingly therapeutic. The act of creating something new giving me a sense of control I hadn't felt in months. The teacher was an older woman with a kind smile, and she encouraged me to pour my emotions onto the canvas. My first piece was chaotic and messy. Smears of dark reds and blacks. Streaks of jagged white lines. It looked like anger. And oddly, it felt like freedom. Bit by bit, I began to rebuild my life. One day, while organizing the last of my unpacked boxes, I came across an old photo of Ben and me during happier times. We were sitting on the beach at sunset, his arm around me as we smiled at the camera. It was so bizarre to look at that picture now, knowing what I knew about him. Had he loved me then? Or had his betrayal always been inevitable, lurking in the corners of what I thought was a perfect relationship? I didn't have answers, but I had closure. My revenge had been thorough. The email I sent had done irreparable damage to his career. From what I heard through mutual acquaintances, he had struggled to find his footing. He was no longer trusted by his peers. No longer the rising star he had once been. Audrey, too, had faded into obscurity. her resignation cutting short the meteoric rise she had been expecting. But in the end, none of that mattered. Revenge didn't erase the hurt. Justice didn't undo betrayal. The scar was still there. Less raw, less painful, but visible nonetheless. I took the photo of Ben and me to the trash, hesitating only briefly before tossing it in. It was time to let go. Time to release the last remnants of what we had been. The final stage of rebuilding came unexpectedly. At my art class, I met someone new, a man named Daniel. He was quiet and thoughtful, his humor subtle but warm. He saw me painting one evening and asked about the piece I was working on. A stormy, chaotic mess of blue and gray swirls. "What's it about?" he asked, his voice gentle. I hesitated, unsure if I wanted to share my story with this stranger. But something about him felt safe, unassuming. "It's about destruction," I said finally. "And rebuilding." Daniel nodded, studying the painting. "It's beautiful. Sometimes the storms teach us more than the sunny days ever could." I smiled for the first time in what felt like ages. Storms did teach us. I realized. They tested us, broke us, and forced us to find strength we didn't know we had. And for the first time, I felt the storm inside me begin to settle. Word count, 2309.